Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm curious to move on to kind of manufacturing and availability of the vaccine, and I'm curious what do you expect the trajectory of manufacturing these vaccines will be, and when do you expect most people will be able to get these vaccines?
Well, let's talk about the United States first and then globally. So right now, the federal government has contracted with multiple companies to make about 600 million doses of vaccine, which would be good enough for around 300 million people getting vaccinated. Hence, everyone that you would imagine that would want to get vaccinated in the country would have a vaccine. In December, the first of the high priorities, which would likely, and it's interesting that you asked that question now, Mark, because tomorrow the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is meeting with the CDC to talk about what the recommendations of the different tiers of priority, which will likely be a combination of healthcare providers, frontline people who take care of patients, as well as those who are at a higher risk, like people in nursing homes and those types of situations. Then as we get into January, the next tier, and February and March, by the time we get to April, there would likely have taken care of all the high priority, and then the general population of the normal, healthy young man or woman, 30 years old, who's got no underlying conditions, can walk in to a CVS or to a Walgreens and get vaccinated. I would think as we get through April and May, that we likely would have, for those who want to get vaccinated, the overwhelming majority of the people that want to get vaccinated. The challenge is going to be to convince people to get vaccinated, because if you have a highly efficacious vaccine and only 50% of the country gets vaccinated, you're not going to have that umbrella of protection of herd immunity. What you really want is, one, what we have, a highly efficacious vaccine, but you want 75, 85% of the people to get vaccinated. If we get to that point, Mark, and people get vaccinated, by the end of the second quarter of the year, you could have enough protection in this country that the pandemic as we know it will be well suppressed below the danger point.
All right, Shalom. Call hello Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Double honors be to the men who I learned this truth from, beginning with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and all the men on down. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Barakatham to the hopefully elect. So, I watched this video, this interview that this guy, Mark Zuckerberg, did with Dr. Fauci concerning, go ahead, get the title here of this video. It says Zuckerberg and Fauci discuss COVID prevention during the holidays. All right, and like I said, just finished watching this video, and just trying to pick meat from the bones, right? And basically, towards the 45, 46-minute mark, all right, that's when it kind of starts getting interesting, because like that's when they kind of go into when they want to start issuing these vaccinations, and this guy Fauci pretty much goes into how they want to do it in tiers. Start with the high priority, which would be people like the healthcare workers and things along that nature. And then pretty much after that, they get the high priority out the way. Then they want to focus more on the general population. All right. The people who want to get it, willingly. All right. But then, like I said, this is where it starts to get interesting, because then he pretty much focuses his attention on the anti-vaxxers, or people who don't want to get it. All right. the sweet charmer, all right, talking the sweet talk, talking the smooth words, because he goes on to pretty much explain how people who don't want to get vaccinated pretty much he pretty much goes into how they can be danger in to society, because they want to they talk about um, vaccinating um, like 70-80% of the people, the population or whatever, something like that. But in order to get this pandemic under control, all right, they have to vaccinate a lot of more people, like more so something. It says something like they in order to get this pandemic down and get life back to normal, quote unquote normal, right? Um, they have to vaccinate like over 90% of the population, and like I said, they kind of he kind of goes in on the anti-vaxxers, people who don't want to get vaccinated, and he pretty much goes into how pretty much self-guilt, because here it is, you got a lot of people that are what they call fatigued, all right. They're tired of this pandemic. They're tired. People are tired of walking around with these masks on, and just not being able to have the freedom that they did before this whole pandemic, right? So people are desperate to get back into quote unquote the normal, going back to their old lives, right? But in order to get to that point, all right, um, you know, you got to do something about these people who don't want to get vaccinated. All right. So I'm just uh, continue to play this up, because there's also another point which I caught my eye. The spirit brought it to my attention. So I'm gonna play this out.
Got it. So more specifically, what do you expect the vaccine availability will look like? Later this winter, and then in the spring, and then by the summer. When do you expect we're going to be at the point where everyone who wants to get the vaccine is able to do so?
Yeah, like I said, I believe that will be as we enter into and get to the end of the second quarter of 2021, starting with April and going into May, June, July. By that time, if people want to get it, they can get it, and hopefully everybody would want to get it.
So again, because you see, they want to start with the high priority healthcare workers and things like that, which I'm assuming would be the tier 1, and then, which again I'm assuming would be the tier 2, people that who want to get it just in general, people that just generally want to get it, get vaccinated, which um, again, it appears that they want to, sometime beginning of next year, they plan on, getting to that point.
Good. So a lot of people also want to know, when should they get the vaccine? Is your perspective that if the effectiveness and safety data ends up as good as it looks now, then everyone should try to get this as soon as it's available? Or is there more nuance in how you think that people should think about this?
Well, each individual person, as we all know, is different, and they have their own assessment of what they want to do. There will be those people, and I believe it will be heavily weighted towards the elderly and those who have underlying conditions, who say, I cannot risk getting infected. I want to get it as soon as I possibly can. There are others that might be young, healthy individuals that say, I ultimately want to get it, but let me wait until 20, 30 million people have already gotten it. It still looks like it's really efficacious, and it doesn't look like there's any severe events. I'll get it. I may wait 2 or 3 months, but I'll get it. So I think that's going to be the dichotomy of the people who really feel that the risk for them is high enough they want to get it as quickly as possible. And then others who say, I want to ultimately get it, but I don't really need it right now.
Got it. And do you think that that latter approach is fine for some people, or do you think that those people are making a mistake?
Well, I think for themselves, each individual person makes their own individual decision. I would like to see the overwhelming majority of the country vaccinated before we get to the end of the second quarter, because I would like to see children, adults, everyone, so that when we get into the fall season, the children could feel really safe at going back to school. The teachers can feel safe that they're not going to get infected. We can get back to the economy being robust. Restaurants can open.
So you see, this is where he's, pretty much going into, going back to the old way of life, and people were just able to freely roam around and do what they want, right? Putting on the charming spell.
To full capacity. That's what I like to see. But you're not going to see it, Mark, unless the overwhelming majority of people get vaccinated.
So you see, we can't get back to the old normal unless the majority of the population gets vaccinated.
So in that sense, I would like to see the reluctant people get vaccinated sooner rather than later. If they want to wait a month or so, that's okay. That might be in accordance with the pace of being able to implement. But I don't want them to wait 6.
And pretty much because, there's a lot of information that's come out and that's coming out, which is why a lot of people, I think this, a couple of surveys says something about 40, almost 50% of Americans aren't going to be, they're not going to be down for these vaccinations, all right? So pretty much, in my opinion, all right, this whole interview is pretty much just damage control, to my opinion, all right? Again, to get those quote unquote reluctant individuals, those that question the vaccinations, those that are skeptical, all right? Because I mean, it's clear and it's obvious, this is pretty much set up, all right? Because Mark Zuckerberg, he asked a lot of these questions. He ask a lot of these questions, and like I said, just pretty much trying to clear the air and damage control. All right, for those that are reluctant. All right.
To 8 to 9 months. I think they should do it within that period of the first 2 quarters of 2021.
Got it. And what do you think is the best argument to convince those people that taking the vaccine during that time frame is the right decision for their and their family's health?
Well, because as long as you're susceptible, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution.
So you see, this is where he starts, trying to guilt blame. All right.
When you're protected, you're another person the virus can't impact. Whereas if you're vulnerable, even if you don't get a lot of symptoms, the fact that you've been infected means you are inadvertently propagating the outbreak. So if you want to be part of the solution, get vaccinated and say, I'm not going to be one of the people that's going to be a stepping stone for the virus to go to somebody else.
So you see, people that don't want to get vaccinated, whether you're healthy or not, whether you show symptoms or not, all right, if you don't get vaccinated, you're pretty much putting other people at risk one way or the other. So, like you said, just get vaccinated. And I'm not telling you to get vaccinated. I'm just telling you, in his words, what he's saying is just get vaccinated. Right?
I'm going to be a dead end to the virus.
Yeah. So there are a number of questions on the thread about herd immunity and what percent of our society we currently believe would have to be vaccinated for everyone to be generally safe. Do we know that? What's our current understanding of that?
We don't have a definitive percentage of that for this disease yet, because we're novices in this, because we've only been dealing with it for less than a year, 10 months. we have some pretty good information for other diseases. For example, measles, which is one of the most contagious viruses known to man. It has a vaccine that's about 97 to 98% effective. In order to get herd immunity, you've got to stay above 90% of the people vaccinated. If you don't get into the 80s, you're going to find out the kinds of outbreaks we saw in some of the communities in the New York City area a couple of years ago. With this vaccine and this virus, although I don't know definitively, Mark, what that percentage is, I would imagine it's somewhere between 75 and 85%, at least.
Interesting. All right, so I want to make sure.
So that's where they want to get it, which again, all in all, they want to get the mass majority of the population to get vaccinated in order to go back to the old normal, basically.
We get a chance to address some of the social equity issues.
Okay, so the other point I wanted to touch on, because he mentioned who, for the most part, they want to pretty much who the target is going to be. So let me just fast forward a little bit.
Vaccinate the younger person, you prevent him from spreading the infection to her. That has been,
because he's pretty much going in. He pretty much goes into who would be more susceptible into catching the virus and spreading this disease and stuff like that. They talk about the elderly, the young, but then he goes on to say this, which
one of the strategies for a number of vaccines to vaccinate children, even though they don't get as sick as the elderly, in order to prevent them from transmitting it to the elderly. That doesn't seem to be the case with COVID-19. But you make a good point. I mean, I'm concerned more about vaccines for different demographic groups that normally are reluctant to get vaccinated, like the minority communities.
So you hear that? All right. And even more specifically, let's play it out.
Absolutely. African Americans and Latinx suffer disproportionately from COVID-19.
African Americans and Latinos suffer more, right? And that's who their focus is mainly on. All right. As the elders been saying throughout the year, man, this whole thing supposedly started in Wuhan, China, right? And then out of nowhere, the focus has been so-called blacks, or so-called African Americans, so-called Latinos, and even in some articles, they go as far as to say Native American Indians are the ones more susceptible to catching this virus. They're the ones more reluctant to get vaccinated. So you see that the narrative, all right, that the propaganda, all right, because we know and understand demonization is coming to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. All right, like I said, throughout the year, man, been saying how they're gonna paint the narrative that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians are going to be the root cause for this disease or any disease. All right, domestic terrorism. All right, they're going to blame so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians pretty much for everything. All right, so I'm gonna rewind that.
The elderly, in order to prevent them from transmitting it to the elderly. That doesn't seem to be the case with COVID-19. But you make a good point. I mean, I'm concerned more about vaccines for different demographic groups that normally are reluctant to get vaccinated, like the minority communities. We absolutely, African Americans and Latinx suffer disproportionately from COVID-19. And yet, those are the populations, particularly African Americans, who have skepticism about government-sponsored medical programs.
So you see, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians are pretty much, the subjects more susceptible to catching COVID. At the same time, they're the same ones that are more reluctant to get vaccinated and pretty much not trusting in the government. And he even goes furthermore. Let me play it out. Let me play this on.
For good reason, because the extraordinarily tragic story of Tuskegee still looms large in the memory of some of the older individuals.
So you see that? All right. And it to me, this is no coincidence that he brought that out, dealing with the Tuskegee experiment. Because brothers have brought it out throughout this year. They've been talking about, because here you got Jake, man, Jake trusting in these people, and again, brothers have used the example of the Tuskegee experiment. All right, you got some certain Jakes waking up to the fact, all right, and a lot of Jakes, just people in general, but more so Jake, all right, some of them, woken up to the fact that these vaccinations, man, you can't trust the government. So you see, man, because like I said, man, this whole interview pretty much, he just seemed to ask just the right questions, which again to me, man, it just appears that this was all set up, all right, to do some damage control, on all the information that's come out this year, all right. So let's play some more. I don't.
That pass it down to the younger generation. So we've got to reach out and engage them at the community level to make sure that reluctance, for reasons that are understandable, don't prevent people who really need the vaccine from getting the vaccine.
Which would be so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, all right, because you're more susceptible to catching this virus, all right. And again, this is why the scriptures go into not trusting your enemy, all right, because they're trying to convince you that, the Tuskegee experiment, it's understandable you don't trust the government. That the Tuskegee experiment being one of many examples, but listen, man, forget all that, all right. And that's why they throw numbers out there like, these vaccines being 95, 96% effective, right? Again, man, the devil, just putting on the charming scheme, all right? The smooth words. And it's also no coincidence, all right? There was articles, and I'm sure brothers have done videos on it already, that go into how they're pretty much going to hire celebrities to convince Jake, mostly, because again, that's who the target is, Jake, all right. They're going to hire celebrities to convince Jake to get vaccinated, all right. So hey, man, done enough rambling. Let me go ahead and get into a few precepts. So you can never trust your enemy, man. Matter of fact, let me get this first. Psalms 58 and Psalms 58. Psalms 58 and 5, it says, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. All right. Because when you I'll just start at verse 1. Psalms 58:1. It says, do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? And this is, more so regarding the wicked, all right, which is the Esau, Edom, beginning with these elites. All right. Verse 2 says, Yea, in heart ye work wickedness, ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And this is how they pretty much got everything through violence, through lying. All right, their sword, which was their blessing, keeping the world in darkness. All right, this is how they get their power. All right, verse 4 says, their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are the deaf adder. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. So you see, this is how they get you. Through their smooth words, man. Their words are smoother than butter, man. They're smooth like oil. All right. This is how they get you, and this is their witchcraft, their propaganda that they put out there. All right. Because don't be surprised, man. A lot of Jake know about the Tuskegee experiment, that whole ordeal, but you got, like I said, don't be surprised if Jake comes out and oh, we forgive the so-called white man, and put our differences aside, and don't be surprised if Jake comes in that mindset. All right, and this is why a lot of Jake's gonna get caught out there, because like I quoted, the scripture saying you never trust your enemy. All right, because he speaks smooth words with his mouth. All right, he's a charmer, but in his heart, man, he's plotting wickedness. He's looking for ways to destroy you. All right, and if you think those vaccines are will do you any good, because you really do got Jake out here, man, really thinks that Esau has a change of heart now. When I just read here, all right, these Edomites, all right, they're born this way. They were created to be the wicked. All right, they come out speaking wickedness. All right, they can't go to sleep without being wicked. They wake up plotting wickedness. It's just in their nature. All right, and like I said, man, they're doing a lot of damage control. All right, because people are waking up, man. And a lot of people aren't going to be for getting that vaccine. All right, but nevertheless, man, this is why Esau, he's going to start showing his true colors. All right, because Esau, eventually is going to get to a point where Esau, man, they're going to get a lot of kickback. All right, I'm going to go here in Psalms 91. Psalms 91, just straight to the point. Verse 3 says, surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. All right, because Esau, he's that fowler. All right, he's setting Jake up for the ultimate kill. All right, a fowler, someone if I'm not mistaken, he traps birds. All right, because Esau, he's a cunning hunter. He's very skillful. He studies Jake. All right. So this is how they're going to get a lot of people caught up. Through their smooth words. All right. But again, eventually, man, you're going to have it's going to get to a point where they're going to get so much kickback. All right. Also had this saved up in Job 35:9, because Job 35:9, it says, by reason of the multitude of oppressions, they make the oppressed to cry. Yeah, because little by little, they're going to put the squeeze on society, and even more so Jake. All right. They're going to start taking away a lot of things like your rights. All right, your benefits, people that are dependent upon the government. All right, they're gonna put the squeeze on, the pressure from above, pressure from below. You know, because you know some of the articles, you know, that go into how they're not going to mandate vaccines directly, but they're going to mandate it indirectly because, you know, there's articles coming out that, you know, go into how, you know, you want to enter into certain venues, you got to have that COVID pass. You got to prove that you've been vaccinated. All right. And very soon, man, it's going to trickle down to just going into your regular grocery stores, you know, just going to your local Walmarts and gas stations. All right, you're gonna have to have that COVID pass. You're gonna have to show that you've been vaccinated. All right. So this is, you know, again, you know, this just just more oppression. All right, as the scripture say, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. All right, their policy. This is how they're gonna, you know, get a lot of people into uh, just submitting. You know, making things extremely uncomfortable and extremely difficult to you know just you know basically just be an average citizen, because this chip, man, excuse me, this vaccine is coming in the same spirit as the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip. All right, it's coming in the same spirit, so that, you know, this is, you consider this a prelude. All right, because in the video they also mentioned that they pretty much have 600 million you know doses, you know, because, you know, there's roughly 300 million, 350 million Americans, and, you know, they said that they have 600 million doses, you know, so because they plan to vaccinate everyone. All right, and, you know, you know, the that second dose. All right, because again, remember, you know, 600 million doses, there's roughly 350 million. You know, that second dose could possibly very well be the mark of the beast. You know, we just not saying that you know, definitely, you know, but just have to wait and see. But nevertheless, man, you know, they plan on everyone getting vaccinated. They plan on vaccinating everyone. All right, through oppression, through unrighteous decrees and laws and policy. All right, and, you know, a lot of people are going to give in, man. You know, let me get this in a second. Ezra 16. Second Ezra 16 and start at verse 69. It says, "And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot." Yeah, because a lot of people are gonna submit. All right, but if you submit, man, you're done. And this is more so talking about the mark of the beast, which again is the RFID chip, microchip. All right. But nevertheless, man, you know, you take that vaccine, man. If you brothers have said this, if you take the vaccine, you're more than likely going to take the chip. All right, and if you do that, man, you're done. You know. But again, you know, this is why when you read verse 68, it talks about the burning wrath of a great multitude, because eventually it's going to get to a point where people are going to buck up. All right, you're going to have the naysayers. All right, the people that aren't going to be with it. Right. And this is why in verse 70 it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." All right, because, you know, the those of the faith, man, they're not going to take it. They're not going to take the vaccine or the mark of the beast. So that's why eventually, man, it's going to get to the point they're just going to say, "The hell with everything." They're just going to come in with the military troops. All right, pursuant to Isaiah 59 and 19, that flood. All right, verse 71 it says, "They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord." So you see. You know, and also because earlier in that video they talked about how they want to start with these vaccines. They want to start rolling out with them, I believe next week, they said. You know, because with the Operation Warp Speed, it looks like things are going as planned. All right, with the Operation Warp Speed. So, you know, because they said they wanted to start vaccinating. They want to start the distribution in mid-December. You know, but nevertheless, man, Jake was going to be the target. All right, and this is eventually going to play out here. What I just read. All right, you know, because you know, it looks like they, from my opinion, all right, it looks like they want to get these vaccines out, get as many people vaccinated as possible. You know, those that are willing to take it, they're gonna take it, and then it looks like they want to work on those that, you know, that are reluctant, those that are saying hell no with the vaccine. All right, you know, it just looks like they want to, you know, get all those that are willing, get them out the way first, and then focus on those that are, you know, that are bucking up, that don't want to, you know, deal with those vaccines. Which they said, you know, hopefully they have you know, pretty much the majority vaccinated by April, May, June of next year. So, you know, just continuing to wait and see how this plays out, you know, and you know, just patiently waiting for Revelations 12 and 12. All right, get that and I ended off on that. But nevertheless, you know, just this is what we're waiting on. Revelations 12 and 12. It says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of this earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." So we're waiting on the great wrath. All right. Again, pursuant to Isaiah 59 and 19, that the flood. All right. That's what we're waiting on. For the devil to make his move. So hopefully this was edifying. Once again, I want to give all credit to Yahweh Bashim El Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Yahweh Bashim El Shai brought them to the hopeful elect. And until next time, I say Shalom.